All right, today we're going to multiply integers. So make sure you have today's lesson, Chapter 3, Lesson 5, 3.5, written on your notes. Make sure you have today's date. A lot of you are missing the date, and I haven't been taking off points, but please remember to put the date. Students will multiply integers and simplify expressions. So I'd imagine you're going to be using the distributive property here to multiply as well, okay? Just a little warning. Your vocabulary, the multiplicative property. The product of -1 and the number is the opposite of the number. In other words, anytime you multiply by a negative, you're going to get the opposite, okay? So, a negative times a negative is a positive. One of those negatives becomes the opposite of what it was. If I multiply a negative times a positive, the positive becomes the opposite of what it is, so it turns to a negative. So they're showing, this is what they're showing you. So I'm going to highlight it for you though. So this A, when I multiply by -1, I get the opposite of A, which is -A. This 4, when I multiply by -1, I get the opposite of 4, which is -4. This -5, when I multiply by -1, I get the opposite of -5, which is 5, positive 5. So basically what they're saying here is anytime you multiply by -1, you are going to change the other number in the multiplication problem to the opposite of what it is. So A becomes -A, 4 becomes -4, -5 becomes +5. They all change to the opposite of what they are when you multiply by -1. Now, is that just true for -1? What about -2? What about -4? What about -100? What about fractions? What about -4/5? What about -2/3? It's true for all negative numbers. All negative integers change the other number in a multiplication problem to the opposite of what it is. So just to remind you of your vocabulary here, for multiplication, the answer in a multiplication problem is the product, if you remember that correctly. And the numbers that you are multiplying are called factors. So just to remind you, this is the product. These are the factors. So anytime you multiply one factor by another negative factor, then the one factor will change to the opposite of what it is in multiplication. All right, let's move on. These are the rules for multiplying integers. Okay? I don't want you to write these down because we've gone over these before and memorizing these doesn't seem to be helping, but I am going to review them because some of you just may not have been ready to understand it before and you might be ready now, all right? So this is just telling you what's going to happen every time. When I multiply two positive integers, I'm going to get a positive product, a positive result. So if both factors are positive, 4 is positive and 5 is positive, then the product will also be positive. The next one says, when I multiply two negative integers, I also get a positive result. So again, my two factors are -3 and -2. When I multiply a negative and a negative, I get a positive. So, just like we just showed. So, -3, -2 changes to the opposite of what it is. -2 becomes positive, and 3 times 2 is 6, so it's +6. The next one, the product of two integers with different signs is negative. So, -10 and +10 results in negative product, -100. So in other words, we're taking that -10 And then the positive 10 is going to become the opposite of what it is, negative. And 10 times 10 is 100. 7 times negative 8 is negative 56. And the product, and this is true for all the time, the product of any integer and 0 will always be 0. This is the way we explained it last year, and you may want to write this down if it helps you. Okay? Hate is negative, love is positive. So, a positive times a positive is positive, because if you love to love, that's good. Number 2, a negative times another negative, that means hate. And if you're multiplying a hate times another hate, that means you hate to hate. That's good. That's a positive also. And number 3, a negative times a positive. So if you hate to love, well, that's bad. That's a negative. So this is just another way for you to think about it in other terms so that you can maybe remember this. The hard thing I know for you guys, and I'm going to point it out here, the hate to love only works with multiplying integers. You cannot use this with adding or subtracting. Those rules are different. So put this in a little compartment in your mind for multiplication and division only, okay? But today we're just talking about multiplication. So you don't need to write that down unless you think it'll help you remember it, then write it down. Example 1, you do need to write this down. Multiplying integers. Negative 7 times negative 8 is positive 56. Hate to hate is good. That's positive. And 7 times 8 is 56. The product of two negatives is positive. B, negative 4 times 11. A negative times a positive. Hate to love. That's bad. If we hate to love, that's bad. So that's a negative. Negative 44, because 4 times 11 is 44. And a negative times a positive is negative. So the product of two integers with different signs is negative. And C, 3 times negative 5 times negative 2. For this one, let's just take one at a time. Don't try to multiply all three of them. Let's just focus on the first two. Just those two. A positive times a negative. Love to hate. Love to hate, that's bad. That should be negative. And what's 3 times 5? 15. So we should get negative 15. So here's our negative 15. Sorry. See if that goes away. Okay, here's our negative 15. And then we still have to multiply by negative 2. We haven't done that yet, right? So negative 15 times negative 2. And if you want to just draw a line here so you know where this negative 15 came from multiplying those two. Negative times negative, hate to hate, that's good. That's positive. So it's 30. Positive 30 should be your answer. Sorry, I don't have the answer anywhere on here. So this is 30. Okay? And the product of two integers with different signs is negative. That's 3 times negative 15, negative 5. Sorry, 3 times negative 5. Those are different signs. But now the negative 15 and the negative 2 have the same sign. So hate to hate is good. That's positive. That's 30. Okay? And letter D, now with exponents. Negative 9 squared. That means negative 9 times negative 9. Make sure you have that as repeated multiplication. Hate to hate is good. That's positive. And 9 times 9 is 81. Positive 81. So the product of two negative integers is positive. Example 2. Now when we have an expression. Okay? So we have an expression here. Negative n plus 5n plus 3. Hold on one sec. Get this out of the way as much as I can. All right. and n equals negative 7. So first I have the original expression. Then I'm multiplying negative n times 5n. Well, don't forget the multiplication property tells us, the identity property of multiplication, that there's always a 1 in front of a variable. So negative 1 plus 5. Now, you can't use the love to hate rule because you're not multiplying. You're adding. So you have to use the addition rule. What do I have more of? Negatives or positives? I have 1 negative and 5 positives. I have more positives. So my answer is going to be positive. And what's 5 minus 1? 4. So my answer here is 4n. Then, add 3. We can't combine those because they're not like terms, okay? By the way, this combined like terms means for the negative 1 plus 5, all right? So now what do? Now I have to substitute n for negative 7. So I put the negative 7 where the n was, substitute negative 7 for n, and I multiply. 4 times negative 7. Now I'm multiplying, I can use the love to hate rule. So 4 times negative 7 means love to hate. That's bad, so it's negative 28. Plus 3. Negative 28 plus 3, I need to use addition rules. So that was multiply. I need to use addition rules. Negative 28 plus 3. I have 28 negatives and 3 positives. The result is negative. What's 28 minus 3? 25. That's my answer. Expressions with exponents. X to the power of 4 means x times x times x times x. And if x is negative 2, it means negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. So we're going to, again, just take 2 of these at a time. Okay? So we substituted there. We wrote it as repeated multiplication. And now we multiply. Negative 2 times negative 2, hate to hate, that's good. That's positive 4. Now we're going to multiply 4 times negative 2. 4 times negative 2. Positive times negative is negative. That's negative 8. And I still need to multiply this one, let's not forget. Times negative 2 again. Negative 2 times negative 2, hate to hate, that's good, that's positive. So our result is positive 16. Okay? Don't worry about this one. There we go. This is where I want it. X to the power of 3 minus x. Let's substitute x first for negative 2. So we make this negative 2 to the power of 3 minus negative 2. Negative 2 to the power of 3 means negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. And then we still have minus negative 2. So we rewrite it as repetitive multiplication, repeated multiplication. Now we multiply negative 2 times negative 2 is 4. And we multiply that by negative 2 again, and we get negative 8 right here. Negative 8 minus negative 2, we need to change the subtraction to addition and change negative 2 to the opposite, positive 2. So we rewrite using subtraction as addition. What do I have more of, negatives or positives? I have more negatives. So my answer is going to be negative. And what is 8 minus 2? It's 6. So my answer is negative 6. Guided practice. 4 times 5. Positive times positive. Love to love. That's good. So it's positive and it's 20. Hate to love. That's bad. And 4 times 5 is 20. Negative 20. Love to hate. That's bad. We love to hate. 4 times 5 is 20. Negative 20. Hate to hate. That's good. That's positive. And 4 times 5 is 20. Okay. Hate to love. That's bad. Negative 24. And we still have to multiply by 2. Hate to love. That's also bad. 24 times 2 is 48. Negative 48. Love to hate. That's bad. 56. And we still need to multiply by our negative 2. Hate to hate. That's good. So that's going to be positive. And 56 times 2 is 112. Positive 112. Simplify the expression, evaluate when n equals 4. So we're going to first write the problem and simplify. N plus negative 4. Well, let's put our little 1 there. 1 plus negative 4. What do I have more of? Negatives. What's 4 minus 1? 3. 3n plus 5. Now, I can't add those because they're unlike terms. So, let's substitute now the n for 4. So, negative 3, substitute n for 4. Don't forget the parentheses that mean multiplication. You have to remember those. Plus 5. Negative 3 times 4. Hate to love. Hate to love. That's bad. That's negative. 3 times 4 is 12. Plus 5. Negative 12 plus 5. I have 12 negatives, 5 positives. I know my answer is going to be negative because I have more negatives. And what's 12 minus 5? 7. Negative 7. Okay. Negative 3n plus n minus 6. Write the problem. I'm going to put my invisible 1 here. Negative 3 plus 1. I can combine like terms because they both have n. What do I have more of, negatives or positives? I have more negatives. So now I know my result's going to be negative. And what's 3 minus 1? 2. 2n minus 6. I cannot do anything more here. I cannot combine like terms. How much was n? N is 4. Okay. Since n is 4, I substitute n for 4. Don't forget the parentheses. That mean multiplication. Minus 6. Hate to love. Hate to love. If you hate to love, that's bad. That's negative. 2 times 4 is 8. Minus 6. Change subtraction to addition. So negative 8. Change subtraction to addition. 6 becomes the opposite. Negative 6. I'm putting my parentheses to keep it separate. Negative 8 plus negative 6. They're both negatives. I'm putting those together. Okay? So negative 8, negative 6 is going to be negative 14. So we have negative 2 minus 6 and negative 14. Negative 2n, sorry, minus 6. Okay, combining like terms. I'm going to use, let's see. All right, I'm going to change this to addition first because I want to use the commutative property of addition to change the order that they're being added in. But I can't do that until they're all addition. So I'm going to change them all to addition. So for n, I'm going to change this subtraction to addition, and this becomes negative 12. Plus n is already addition, so I leave it. Minus, I change to addition, and change 8n to the opposite, negative 8n. Now I can change the order of them. Now that they're all addition, the commutative property of addition says you can add in any order. I want all of my n's together. So I'm going to put 4n with n with negative 8n. And then I'm going to put my negative 12 last. Now I can see what I'm doing here better. I have all of my n's together. So let's combine like terms. Put my 1 here for the identity property of multiplication. 4 plus 1 is 5. 5n plus negative 8n. Plus negative 12 over here. 5 plus negative 8. What do I have more of? I have more negatives. So I know my result's going to be negative. Right? 8 minus 5 is 3. So negative 3n plus negative 12. Substitute n for 4. Negative 3 times, don't forget the parentheses, 4 plus negative 12. Negative 3 times 4 is negative 12 plus negative 12. Since they're both negatives, we add them together. 12 and 12 is 24. And since they're both negatives, the sign is negative. So, negative 3n minus 12 or negative 3n plus negative 12, same thing. I'm going to change that right now because I like you to use addition. Plus negative 12 is negative 24. And there's our answer. And here's with exponents now. X equals negative 3. So I know I have negative x squared. So negative 3 times negative 3. Since it's squared 2 times. So negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9. But I have a negative here. So it's negative 9. Okay? The problem is that you had this negative here, and this is also negative 3. So this negative you keep right there. Okay? Negative 6x. I think we're going to skip these, a couple of them. Well, x is negative 3. I'll go ahead and do this one real quick. Negative 6 times negative 3. Substitute. X is negative 3. A negative times a negative. Hate to hate. Positive. Love. 6 times 3 is 18. The opposite of what it is also. They also want the opposite of what it is. Sorry, I didn't read the directions clearly. So it's negative 18 and 18. Okay? Let's see here. Let me skip over some of these. Yeah, I think we're good with these. We're good. You guys are good, okay? Have a great night, and I will see you tomorrow.